Would your enthusiasm or your approach to playing in the professional grade in the EUSPBA change if winning the season, you knew that 15 grand could be coming your way? And people are like, oh, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that
15
would
grand
change
could
everything.
motivate me to do a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. So, this is one of the rare occasions where I don't think you have any idea what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no, I'm completely lost and happy to be so. This will be fun. I love going on a journey.
Cool. I'm going to turn off my fan because it actually gets, I mean, it's warm in here, but the fan actually makes it kind of cool. It's very strange.
That's nice.
But anyway, we're going to talk about, I don't know, should I say what it is? We're going to talk about the new EUSPBA Greatest Hits program.
No wonder
today.
I'm lost because I'm all the way over here in the EUSPBA. I don't know anything about the EUSPBA.
Yeah. Well, we don't call them PUBAs over here. We call them PUs. EUSPBA.
Oh,
That's how you're
interesting.
supposed to say it. Although I feel like I do say EUSPBA still.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's a 2-syllable PUBA.
Yeah.
If you're from the West,
Yeah.
and it's a 1-syllable
WUSPBA.
PUBA. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
That's some good stuff to know. So anybody in North America or traveling to North America, just know ahead of time. If you're talking about the
EUSPBA.
Eastern, it's EUSPBA. If you're talking Western, it's EUSPBA.
I actually prefer a good EUSPBA. I just go for it. I go for the mouthful.
I mean, I do think whenever an acronym is so long that it itself deserves to be shortened, I do find that like really entertaining. I think that's pretty funny.
And it's also a ridiculous combination of letters.
It is, yeah. These are silly letters to put together.
Also, WUSPBA is almost impossible to say, so it doesn't work for you guys. But we have
Yeah.
RSPBA, right?
Right.
We have
That rolls off the
EUSP
tongue.
Right. RSPBA, EUSPBA, PPBSO, awkward, awkward.
Yeah.
But what else are you going to say? We also have BCPA, BC Pipers, something like that. And there are others. And then there's MWPBA, which is
I like that one.
strangely fine, but WUSPBA isn't going to work at all. It's not going to
Yeah.
work. And
I think it's
then
that
you have
UU.
WUSPBA.
Yeah.
Then you have WUSPBA. We also have a NAPBA, a NAPBA, a NAPBA, a NAPBA.
Yeah, that's funny.
No one
Is that
knows.
one that over here in the West we tend to say Anapaba, and then in the East you tend to say Napa?
NAPBA. I don't know. It's tough to say. Another thing that some people might not know about me, they might, but they might not, is that I'm a sitting member at the moment until I presumably get voted out in the fall. I'm a sitting member of the EUSPBA Executive Committee. So I help govern this,
You're in the ship.
arrangement, this bizarre acronym. But anyways, the EUSPBA is interesting. It's an interesting association, Jim. Do you want to talk more about it?
Yes, I do. But I'm also curious, Andrew, do you feel like as a sitting member, it's easier to talk about, or is it harder to talk about? Like, do you have to be careful to not make people sad, or is it that you have an insider knowledge so you can talk about it as you wish?
Are you talking about the awkwardness of the acronym or the...
Sure. That and everything. If
No.
you're saying like, because like some people could be like, oh, he said it's an interesting organization. Is that code for he thinks it's dumb or something like that, you know?
Well, it's definitely very interesting. And yeah, well, I think the important thing about being on the executive committee is it allows me to continue to complain in basically the same ways I've always complained. But like now I'm in the position to actually affect some of the changes I'd like to see instead of just taking pot shots, because the reality of the situation is, and we all know this, right? We all give the old chapeau, hats off. We all give the old hats off to all of the people that work hard in the associations. Give them the old hats off to you. But then now here are my list of complaints, right?
Yeah.
But they're all our friends. They're all great people. We've always known this. But then as it turns out, they've got quite a hard job to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to govern an association. Well, and then the EUSPBA is a particularly interesting one in the sense that, as far as I know, we're by far the largest association in the world, both geographically and population-wise. I mean, I would assume, but I don't know for a fact, that perhaps the RSPBA has more bands than us. But we've got we've got between 2,000 and 3,000 soloists that compete across 50-something different events across our season. And then how many square miles do we span? It's enormous. It's crazy.
How many football fields is that? Yeah, that's pretty big.
Well, how many Great Britons do we span? A lot.
Right.
So the EUSPBA has a particularly difficult job to do. And the EUSPBA Greatest Hits program is a new thing this year that I'm super stoked about. And
Slow down. Wait, the Greatest Hits program, you say?
yeah, the Greatest Hits program, Jim.
Okay, that sounds cool.
By the way, I think this may have been borrowed from the PPBSO, which may have experimented with some similar ideas. And I honestly don't know the details. So, maybe they're still doing it. I'm not quite sure. The concept or the idea is derived from the problem that we have in the EUSPBA, which is that we have way more events than anyone could feasibly ever attend.
Right. Yeah.
Over the course of a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this year we have 54 events on the books. So if you picture yourself in grade 3 solos or something, right? How many competitions are you actually going to be able to attend? Well, it depends on a variety of things. Where you're from, how much money you got, how good your car is, maybe what other interests you might have, what bands you play in. All of these things can affect what games that you go to.
And the timing of the events themselves, of course.
Right. So you could be in the position where you could make it to 20 events. You might also be in the situation where you have to pick 5 or 6. But then the interesting question there then, Jim, becomes, well, how do you calculate who the best player is?
Yeah.
So, by the way, in a weird way, I can't explain it, is extremely important to me. Like, I don't know why I'm so passionate about this, but like, okay, if we're going to have the biggest association in the world, we have to know who the best player is in each grade. Imagine the NCAA. By the way, this is the way it used to be. The NCAA basketball league, like, they never had a tournament. So people just played in the league and then nothing much came of it. And then, of course, the tournament sort of does a big dramatic thing to try to figure out who the best team is. And, you can make your arguments on how to improve that system. And I'm sure the Greatest Hit system has some things as well. But what used to happen is the EUSPBA would do everything all the other associations would typically do, which is really simple. You go to the games, and then if you win points at the competition, great. The person with the most points at the end of the season wins.
Mm-hmm.
But in our situation, it doesn't work that well. Well, let's talk about situations where it does work really well. Like I remember when I used to live in British Columbia and we would play the scene there, their circuit is awesome in the sense that it is feasible to make every contest during the year. Now, not everyone makes every contest, but the total points thing works perfectly well there because all the players see all the players on a regular basis. So you're regularly competing against each other and you're battling and winning some events and losing some events. But you have the opportunity to make most of the events in that circuit. At least back in the day, that was true. And so the total point system works perfectly fine in that situation. I would guess, but I'm not sure, but I would guess that Ontario is the same way, and Atlantic Canada, and even the Midwest might kind of be the same way in the sense that they don't have a ton of events. They have a healthy several, and so it's feasible to make it to those. And then total points would be totally fine, and everything would just be all hunky-dory, wouldn't it, Jim? But in the EUSPBA, we have a problem. I remember back when I was actively playing solos, this was before the Ben McClamrock, Nick Hudson, Derek Midgley era, where it's now officially an extremely high standard in pro. But back when I first came back, I remember, being solid player right in the mix on a regular basis. And I remember being second place in the standings to Jimmy Bell, who's from the South, or, at least he's not from the South, but he's located there. Right. And I think Jimmy was in first. Maybe we were even tied at one point. And I remember thinking to myself, I hadn't seen Jimmy a single time in competition the entire season. And then I remember feeling like it stinks that I got second to a guy that I never got a chance to play against.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like the point system, of course, makes it so it's not necessary to have a head-to-head competition because it's not like you're playing a sport where you have to have a winner versus a loser in a head-to-head competition. But it is a little weird, isn't it? If you could see whether you were tying with somebody or close to somebody or winning or losing in any situation, to see a name there and have never seen that person in the entire season, that is a little weird.
It's weird, but very common in the
Yeah.
EUSPBA, I would think. We do have some cross-pollination. We do have people that love to travel around to the games all over the place.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing that we want to see more of as well, right? Like it would be cool if I was incentivized to travel to the South to compete against Jimmy Bell. Anyway,
Mhm.
another thing that is problematic in the total point system is point warriors versus great players, right?
Yeah, you can kind of play the system. Yeah.
Well, and you might not be playing the system, to use the word of the day, for nefarious reasons. You might just be playing the system because you love it. It's
Mhm.
like that's what you want to do on your weekends is you want to go out to a games and play a couple tunes and enjoy yourself, and maybe your band is there and whatever. And that's what maybe you've got friends that you like to do it with. But
Mhm.
what you would find is you would find players who really aren't that strong, right? But they've gotten 47 fourth places in the course of the
Yeah.
season, right? And then you would find players who were extremely strong, who got firsts and seconds at only a handful of events.
Right. 5
And
or
they
6
would, and
events.
yeah, and they would end up with a very similar number of points. And perhaps even the points warrior would be ahead of that person. But if they ever went head to head, who would win every single time?
Yeah, it'd be like an obvious thing that the stronger player would win.
Right, exactly. So that's the other problem that we had. And by the way, that became particularly confusing during upgrade season, right? It's like, well, so and so is second place in the points is not getting an upgrade because, we know that person isn't that strong of a player and that they just got a whole bunch of points. And then meanwhile, the person who's in 19th place, because they only played 2 events, but they won in a huge field and we know that they're a great player, though they're going to go
Mhm.
up, right? And so like it's problematic in upgrade season as well. So anyway, the greatest hits program is the idea that instead of total points, what we're doing now in the EUSPBA is we're taking your best 5 point scores over the
Mhm.
course of a season, right? We're taking your best 5 point scores and we're adding those up to calculate your season points in order to produce the season rankings.
That makes so
Uh,
much sense. Who thought of this?
well, I mean, like I said, I think maybe it's been done before, but myself and Nick Hudson, who was then the chair of the music board, we got on the phone one day and kind of hashed this out and put together something that we thought was worth a try, which is pretty cool. And then we're at just about mid-season now when we're recording this, and I think it's been a really, really fascinating, huge success so far. And
Mhm.
so I thought maybe we could talk about it on the old podcast there, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a cool idea. I feel like you can tell it's a good idea because when you see it, it's so simple and straightforward. Like it makes so much sense, you know? That often seems to be the case with really good ideas.
The most simple model would be total points, right? We had to go to a slightly more complex model, but I have some props. You want to look at some props?
Yeah, let's check out the props.
Let me see if I can
I've
share
been
my
trying to
screen.
figure out exactly which states EUSPBA currently covers, because I was going to do the math to see how many Great Britons fit into that geographical area, because I thought that would be fun, but I can't find an exact map.
Well, it's every state on the eastern seaboard, right? And then you've got New York, Pennsylvania, all the way over to Ohio. I know Tennessee's in there. I know we go all the way over to Texas in the south, right? Is
Yeah.
this helping at all?
Yeah, I'll figure this out. You go ahead and carry on with your props. I'm going to figure this out in the background.
We could figure it out on screen. We'll go to our old chat GPT. First of all, look up what states the EUSPBA resides over. And then we'll do our tools and we'll do a web search and let's see what it comes up with and if we agree. So
Okay.
given this, how many UKs would fit inside of the EUSPBA? Okay, there you go. So 10 UKs would fit inside of the EUSPBA.
The EUSPBA is probably about 10 times the size of what the RSPBA is covering. If that helps anybody listening to kind of get a feel for why it would be difficult to get to all events.
Yeah, totally. It's bananas, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a lot of land.
And by the way, our biggest branch by area appears to be the southern branch. And that's all on the assumption that this is correct. So, take that with a grain of salt. Might be wrong. But anyway, Jim, are you satisfied now?
Now I can focus in.
Now, people will be listening to this podcast, and these results that you actually see are going to be outdated. Just so you know.
Sure. Yeah. Little bit of a time warp here.
Yeah, I believe that these are updated up until Glasgow lands, but not including anything after. But anyway, so some of our more interesting races include, and these are all our temporary database things, but like here, for example, is our grade 3 light music standings you can see on the screen. And right now, at the moment in time, there's this guy, Patrick Neff. And you could see that what's interesting is we've now reached the point in the season where he has more than 5 entries.
Oh, yes.
So five is the number for the greatest hits, right? So we're actually only counting the points of his top 5 point scores. And you can see his points are right here. See if I can make it a little bigger. So here's all the points, right? And if we pick out the biggest numbers in this list, interestingly, we have 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. And what you would find if you added all those together would be that you get to 74 points.
I see.
But can you see how his total points would add up to 115, but his actual points that we're using to score people is only 74.
Yeah, and this is interesting. And maybe for the episode, maybe we should block out people's names on this. Do you think?
No, it's maybe all public.
Oh, is this? I thought this was like a behind the scenes kind of thing.
This is all published on the website, my friend.
Well, I do think to look at that, because you could look at Patrick's line and go, 115 points, he would be at the top of the charts. 74 points is at the top of the charts. What's the difference? But as you go down, you start to see a few examples where a person's total points would have had them charting way differently than their greatest hits points. And so you can see how this is reordering the list in a real way.
Yep, absolutely. So you can see Patrick has 115 total points. Not too bad, right? But you can look and you can see, and as a matter of fact, can I change how it's sorted? Yeah. So if I change how it's sorted, just for funsies, he goes into second place because Dave Romanchuk has more total points. But interestingly, Dave has been really consistent, but in smaller fields, and Patrick has won the larger fields, and so that ends up being rewarded more in this system.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's no real huge
now
standouts.
David knows who to be upset with if he doesn't end up winning this year, huh?
Yes, exactly
This
right.
is all Andrew Douglas's fault.
I just took that sort away, so I don't know. But anyway, there you go. Danny Parrish is a great player, but he's not actually winning the greatest hits. Some of these guys have gone to those bigger events, which is interesting. Here's somebody, Matt McAuliffe, for example. He's in 13th place overall with the greatest hits. And then I wonder what happens if we change it to the total points. He would go up to 5th. But you see, he just hasn't done enough damage in the big events, which is really kind of interesting. Let's look at some other contested. Grade 3 Pbrock is another interesting one. Grade 3 is a huge grade in the EUSPBA. This is pretty interesting in the sense that Evan Elliott has only played 5 events, and he's already in second place overall against people who have played 6 events. But yeah, this is a pretty close race, right? Jennifer, and I know Jennifer just won at Glasgow Lands, so I wonder if her, and she's only got 3 entries so far, but look at the point hauls that she's bringing in with each
If she gets
entry.
a couple more of those, she's going to be doing great.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And you can't really see it yet, but if you had somebody here with 13 total entries, right, but tiny amounts of points, in the old system, they might end up high in the rankings, even though probably they're not the best player.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
And then grade 4 senior is a highly, obviously, as most of us know, that's a pretty big one. But here you go. You've got some people here with 10 entries. And then some people with just 5. Like we have someone with 10 entries and someone with 5 who are actually tied at the top of the greatest hits column here in the in the standings.
It's
I didn't
interesting
see.
to me that because like I might have thought, I don't know. What I'm trying to say here is just that on the one hand, it might not be surprising that the people who tend to rank toward the top of the list would have been toward the top of the list either way, because somebody who plays really well is probably also very motivated to make it to as many events as possible, that kind of thing. There's probably going to be some connection there. But this does make the difference between 1, 2, and 3 in a lot of cases, it looks like. Um, then at the same time, there might be a lot of players who make it to a lot of events but are pretty new, and there might even be something like newness, like the enthusiasm that comes with newness that gets a person to a whole lot of events. But then, like, unsurprisingly, they might not be pulling a whole lot of points at every single event. That would have thrown the whole chart in a big way in the old way of tallying points versus this greatest hits thing.
Yes, exactly. Well, and you can also derive some things, right? So, for example, Bob Delp, in this case, in the grade 4 senior light music, right? He's got 53 points across 10 attempts. Now, it's not a perfect metric, but what does it tell you when someone like Peter Spillman gets 62 points in 5 attempts?
Yeah, that's another clean kind of comparison from one thing to the next. Half as many events, but a lot more points.
I feel like you could probably go infinitely deep down the rabbit hole, but you don't know. Like maybe Bob went to 10 smaller events, all of which had extremely high level competition, right? There's always
Yeah.
that chance, but it does give us a clear, potentially clear indicator. We also have a couple other metrics that we've been kind of looking at this year. Unique AGLs is another metric. So a lot of us might know what an AGL is, which means an above grade level marking on your sheet, which is sort of the, a coveted holy grail thing. But this year we're also looking at unique AGLs in the sense that we're counting the number of AGLs that you get from unique judges.
Oh, I see.
As opposed to just how many AGLs you get. For example, maybe you regularly compete for a certain judge that just thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so you get 7 AGLs from that judge across the course of the season, right? And then in this particular metric that we're looking at, that would only count as 1, right? And so your unique AGLs are AGLs that you get from different judges. That would sort of help give you an impression when it comes time for upgrade season, how widely the judging panel agrees with the fact that you're playing at a very high level.
Yeah, so to be clear, in this case, the use of the word unique means from like unique as an individual different judges, not the weirdest judges. Oh, that judge is unique. Let's
Yeah. Yeah. How many AGLs did we get where we thought that's unique?
Yeah.
That's funny. And then we're also looking, I also put in this thing called big wins.
Yeah, how does that work?
That's just a first place result in a large field of competitors. And I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, it's 9 or more. So it's like, does this person have the ability to win in a large field? And how many times have they pulled that off? Right? I think that's another excellent indicator. Now, we're not, a lot of people have come up and said, like, why is it 9 people? That's not right. It should be 8 or something. It's like, these are just indicators that the person that's playing is a heavy hitter and perhaps ready for the next level. Like you can see that here. You could see these guys have 4 big wins already at the mid-season mark.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's interesting they both also have multiple unique AGLs. So like it's good supporting info that they maybe ought to move.
Right. And then meanwhile, like, and again, this is just mid-season. Meanwhile, you take Christine at the top of the list. She does have 1 big win, but no AGLs. And it's taken her a lot of entries to be tied for first place. So, if you're on the music board and you're thinking like, all right, should we upgrade this person relative to Peter Spillman? What conclusion are you going to come to there?
There I might think, no, she's playing well, but probably right exactly where she ought to be.
Maybe you say to yourself, well, to be first place in the greatest hits in this is like definitely, good enough. And by the way, I'm sure by the end of the season, there'll be more big wins and so on, right? For Christine. But you can see how like it allows you to ask the question and then you have data that you can look at to help. You know what I'm saying? If we go back to P-Rock is kind of like not yet great because we actually don't have a lot of total entries, but let's go back to your grade 3. What are we going to do? Get rid of the total points sort. And then if we go back to the grade 3, interestingly, fascinatingly, we talked about how Dave Romanchuk is actually behind in the greatest hits. He's in 6th place. But what do you notice about his big wins and his unique AGLs?
Oh man, he's killing it.
He's crushing it, right? He's got 7 big wins and 6 unique AGLs. By the way, Danny Parrish, in just 9 entries, has 5 big wins and 4 unique AGLs.
Yeah.
It's really kind of interesting, right? I would suspect that, and then Patrick Neff has 2 big wins, and maybe he must have been like second or something in some of these other contests, because that's the only way I could see that he would get so many greatest hits points with so few big wins. So that begs the question, like who won those contests? And why aren't they at the top? And then, you could look a little bit into it. That's really interesting. And then you have some people with no big wins and no unique AGLs who are close to the top in terms of the greatest hits, right? So that I like that for me. For me, that's like these are the things that we can look at, right? In order to determine your readiness for an upgrade as well.
Yeah, it seems really, really useful in that way. It like so many things in art competition, right? It looks like another good tool to move as far away from subjectivity and toward objectivity as possible. Like we'll never get to a perfectly objective way to judge art, but this is something at least.
I feel like it's a game that people can play. What we were doing before was when upgrade season came around, anybody who wanted an upgrade just needed to ask for one. And then they also needed to submit video of them playing.
Yeah.
Right. So what we would get at the end of each year, like in November or December, otherwise known as long after the competition season, what we would get was people requesting upgrades, probably because they were high in the points. And then you had to make special videos in November and December. It's a rough time to be making a good video, or it's a great time to do 19,000 takes in your basement.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's true.
Right? To try and get a good recording that you can send in. Like we had all sorts of different things. We would have people who crushed it all season long, but just procrastinated making their video in between Thanksgiving and Christmas to just like see if they could get an upgrade. People would then be accepted or rejected for an upgrade from the music board with some communication, but it was very limited. So in a lot of cases, people kind of felt like, well, wait, why the hell did I not get an upgrade? Like if people were maybe feeling gypped, or why did that person get it, but not me? And for me, that's not a fun game to play. Like this game is a lot more fun, I think, in the sense that like it's and I get it. The rabbit hole goes deep and there's imperfections with this as well. But like this is a way more playable game. The pieces on the board are all visible.
Yes, right? That's what I've been feeling all along, is that like, well, it's not opaque. You can see what's actually going on. You can understand the reasoning behind the decisions that would be made. That's helpful.
And then in my anecdotal experience, this season, people are fired up and it's super fun. Somebody came up to me at Glasgow Lands and said, I got my first big win, I think they said, right?
Oh, nice.
And like, right? Because they actually won in a field larger than 9 or whatever. And they were like all super fired up. And then we've had people tell us that they've decided to travel to other big games because they know they have a chance to win the season this year. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
That's the name of the game. That's the sort of excitement that we want, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's a really cool system, Andrew. The reason you brought it up today is because you wanted to know what I think of it. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's good.
I think maybe the reason I brought it up today is we needed a topic. And this is something I like to talk about.
It's not,
but
because
I'm also
I thought it was maybe because every project you do, you're always thinking to yourself, yeah, this is good, but what would Jim think?
What would
I
Jim
really
think
want to
about
know
this?
what.
Would Jim like this or not? Would Jim like this or
That's
not?
what's always, I thought that's always in the back of your head, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, this is just such an outlier, isn't it? 7 big wins.
Mhm. They're doing something right. They must be playing real well, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, the way these old databases are eventually going to be replaced by a better system of looking at the results here. It's just displayed better on the old website,
Yeah.
Rooney here, right?
Not
So,
all of us love looking at spreadsheets, so I guess it makes sense to make it look pretty.
yeah, like this is what it'll look like later. Liam Horn crushing it in grade 1. 7 entries. Like, look how far ahead he is from the field.
Yeah.
He's won
I mean,
every
no,
big event that he needs to.
no offense
Crazy.
to Magnus or Michael, but looking at that, 7 entries for first place versus a dozen entries for second and third, like that's Liam's really playing strong, huh?
Yeah, I kind of want to look now at the more detailed spreadsheety table here. Were we looking at light music or were we looking at P-Brock? Yeah, here's Liam Horn.
Ah, there you
Whoa,
go.
0 big wins? How's that work?
No big wins in second place either.
Now that you mention it, here's what's really going on here in the grade 1 is none of those events reach that size very often because there's a lower population of players.
Yeah, if you only have 3 or 4 grade 1 players, nobody's going to get a big win, not even first place, huh?
Yeah. Because, big wins are just harder to come by in this table.
Yeah.
And I was also interested in just having a quick look at the grade 1 P-Brock. And again, remember, these are slightly outdated results. But then you got Magnus crushing the P-Brock at the moment as well with a couple big wins. And look at the unique AGLs in the P-Brock here. To get an AGL in grade 1 can be tricky, and he's got 4 unique ones on the table right now. So that's a pretty good indicator that Magnus is playing some high-level P-Brock,
Well, that's good news for everybody else in the grade 1 P-Brock, right? Like, let's get Magnus out of the way. move that player up.
But there's also, like, at this point in time, Liam Horn only has 3 total entries. So he hasn't even filled his greatest hit slots yet.
Wow.
So when he does, or if he does, will he then end up ahead of Magnus, who's already got 6 in the bag? We don't really know, and I think it's really interesting. So we thought about this too when we invented the greatest hits system, which is like, what is the appropriate number? What's the minimum number that you should participate in? Like, if Liam Horn only competes 3 times in P-Brock, he'll be penalized in the long run, won't he? Because he won't have filled all of his slots.
Yeah.
So like there is sort of like a minimum commitment as well when it comes to competing if you want to be competitive in the overall standings, which is that 5 competition threshold. So you got to play 5 P-Brocks in order to climb up the standings there. This 24 is huge. Liam Horn won a grade 1 event and got 24 P-Brock points. That means there must have been 13 players in that contest.
Yeah, that's a huge number. Like a lot of those, it's not super common for those to even be double digits. 24 is huge.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to get into it on today's podcast, but for some bizarre reason, you get double points for P-Brock in the EUSPBA. Well, you get 1 point for yourself and then 1 point for everyone you beat if you get a prize, right? That's how the scoring works in the EUSPBA. And every event is calculated to 6th place. So to win the 24, right? So first split it in half. So he got 12 points. So he must have beaten 11 players. So there were 12 people in the field when he won this P-Brock contest. And then he's also got a 20 there on the books. Now Magnus has got a 22 and a 16. And we'll have to see what else he picks up. But the big events are the ones that catapult you to the top. And then meanwhile, is it going to be strategically a good idea for people to travel to, let's say, Florida early in the season to pick up those big points, which is potentially what Liam Horn has done here? No, well, I mean, maybe not actually. I only see Ohio and Fair Hill. Okay, so he's done all of this without playing in Florida at all. Interesting.
It would be interesting to see, like, letting the system mature for a few years, what sort of like points warrior strategies might start to appear, like what strategies might come up in order to play the system, play the game, as it were.
Yeah, so it was Ohio Valley Indoor where Liam picked up those big points. So that was in March, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, that's our greatest hits program, and it's pretty neat. I'm really looking
That is
forward to
neat.
seeing what it looks like at the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that a lot.
I'm just stoked because I feel like the points problem has been a problem for such a long time.
Well, kudos for trying to do something about it. I think that a lot of us have just been like, well, this is just the system. This is what it is. It's kind of silly, isn't it? Oh, well.
Yep. Well, and the total points are still there, you know. That's the other thing. Sometimes I feel like people who oppose ideas sometimes oppose them with the worry that these decisions are not reversible, but they're totally reversible. We still have the total points data. So, next year everybody hates it and people vote to reverse it. I mean, it's super easy to reverse. We could even reverse the standings element of it.
Right. You still have a record of
several seasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Very cool, Andrew.
Yeah, it seems fun. I wonder if it could work in EUSPBA. Because EUSPBA, for lack of a better pronunciation.
Yeah, thanks for saying it in the way that the locals will understand. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I feel like there must be situations there where there's definitely competitors competing in different corners. It's another huge geographic area. So I wonder if greatest hits might help or not.
Yeah, in terms of like competitors winning and losing against each other without ever having seen one another. That's definitely a thing for sure. Yeah.
And then how many contests does EUSPBA have, I wonder, in a given year?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I know that I only have a reasonable chance at getting to 2 or 3 personally, but that's partly just on me for not being willing to travel further than, I'm not usually able to go out of state. And so that's about what I've got available to me.
Yeah, the next thing I'd like to see is more incentivization to win in the EUSPBA. So the next thing I'd like to see,
more cash prizes.
You can't give cash in the amateur grades.
But that would be incentive, wouldn't it?
I would like to see big incentivization to win the season in the EUSPBA. So like plane tickets to compete in Scotland for your top grade ones. I don't know.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Or a new set of bagpipes to the winner of grade 4 senior, and a new snare drum and tenor drum for the drummers, and scholarships to, summer schools. I think that's one of the reasons Winter Storm is such a big thing, is the incentive to win there is really big and pretty awesome. Well, and then of course in the professional, we the incentive would need to be prize money. That would be a bit of a project, right? But imagine, I sometimes tell people this, it's like, would your enthusiasm or your approach to playing in the professional grade in the EUSPBA change if winning the season, you knew that 15 grand could be coming your way, just as a miscellaneous number? And people are like, oh, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh, 15 grand should motivate me to do a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. It's like, what's going to motivate you to get the pipes out on a cold February morning before work?
Right. So then the level of play would elevate.
Of course. The level of play would elevate. There'd be bigger populations. People would be staying in better form. Like my solo form isn't as good as I wish it was, but I just don't have incentive enough to get going on it. And I'm not the only one. So many great players in the EUSPBA, the world's largest, population of solo competitors in the world, right? I mean, we have so many great players, and what we're lacking is the incentive to push forward with it, because a lot of people do it because they really enjoy it. But the only reason to compete beyond that in the EUSPBA is just as a stepping stone to get into form for your Scotland endeavors, like trying to win the silver medal or the gold medal or something like that. There's no other incentive for the pros here. And we see that in the amateur grades too. It's like, why is that awesome player not competing solos today? He's in his civvies. He's like, oh, I didn't get my entry in on time, and I'm just going to play with the band today. And you're like, what the hell? What's going on with that? And I wonder if it's just that there's not enough incentive, and there might not be enough clarity about how to play the game and to see why it's fun, right? That's problem number 1. And I think problem number 2 is the incentive problem.
Yeah. Well, I can see how this Greatest Hits program helps with the clarity. And you know what else would be a really good incentive for people to compete at all levels would be T-shirts. Andrew, you and I both
Hell
know
yeah.
places to go for cool T-shirts. What's that T-shirt you got? What's that T-shirt you got on right now?
This Easily Distracted by Pipe Bands t-shirt, that's for sale only until the end of July, which means that it's going to be too late to
Oh
buy this
yeah, it'll
by
be
the
too
time
late.
people
But
see this
darn
episode.
it, I was trying to set you up for a commercial. There'll be something else there, though. I'm sure.
Yes, there will. Yeah, we got our monthly merch drops. Jim, we've gone too long on this topic.
Hey,
I
we
think
can't
we
help
put the
it.
audience
It's
to sleep.
interesting and fun. Yeah.
But there you go. I think we're gonna hit it there. I don't know when this is coming out, but we'll see you guys soon. It'll be great.
You know what this episode has been?
What has it been?
It's been one of the greatest hits.
Hey everybody, Andrew Douglas here from the Piper's Dojo, and I just want to say thanks so much for listening to today's iteration of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, it would be super helpful to us and to a lot of bagpipers out there trying to find us. If you could give us a top-notch review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, particularly Apple, iTunes, and Spotify and things like that, your review would be really, really helpful. So if you have a moment today, definitely go over there and help us out. Other than that, until we meet again on the podcast or somewhere else, thanks again for listening.